What was the dumbest thing someone said while being 100% serious? A co-worker told me it was her last day of work and that she'd put in 2 weeks. When I asked her what she was planning to do, she told me she spent their entire tax refund on a fancy DSLR camera and Photoshop so she could start a photography business. I asked her if photography is a hobby of hers and she told me she had never used a real camera before. Homegirl straight up quit her job and spent $4K on something she has no idea how to do. She was convinced that she'd be bringing in $1K a week within a few months. Gotta poke fun of myself on this one. I was 19 or 20 and making a grocery list with my girlfriend at the time. Was on a mission to make soft tacos. Could not find soft taco shells anywhere in the store. Finally, I called my girlfriend to see if I was maybe looking in the wrong place. Her response, "Babe, they are called tortillas. You just fold them in half." I was blown away realizing I'd never made that connection. Still won't let myself live it down 15 years later. One time I went to football practice as a sophomore. Someone had a jug of water that was frozen, and I said, "How'd you get the ice in the bottle?" Not my best moment, but still makes me laugh. An experienced nurse, more than 10 years on the job, late 30s, said, "I don't believe in germs. They are not real. They're made up to scare us." This was in the hospital where she worked. We thought she was kidding around. She wasn't. My college roommate was dating a guy in a fraternity, and we were all hanging out in the frat house's living room watching a British TV show. One of the guys in the frat was surprised when he heard a black man speaking in a British accent. He didn't know that was possible. He thought all black people spoke with American accents. When I was in high school, there was a guest speaker. I forget exactly what he did, but his parents had immigrated to the US from somewhere in the Middle East, Iraq I think. He was familiar with parts of the country because he had lived there. Something, spyish sounding stuff. He overheard some things. He had to spend some time in the desert. He mentioned that the temperatures could get up over 120 degrees during the day. This girl raised her hand and asked, "Is that Fahrenheit or Celsius?" I mean, I'm glad she knew that other places used Celsius, but everyone in the room turned and looked at her. The speaker had a slightly flabbergasted look and he replied, "Celsius." She sat back, content, and the rest of us couldn't believe that she believed him. So when the movie There's Something About Mary came out, I went to go see it with my now husband and some friends. In the scene where Ben Stiller is in the bathroom, whacking off to a girl's fashion magazine, he loses his load and says, "Where'd it go?" and starts searching frantically for it. The theater was silent until I blurted out, "Where did what go?" It's been 26 years, and we still laugh at me about it. He was proud he almost got arrested by harassing a YouTuber, and it got worse from there. He then tried using me as a scapegoat for his revenge. He didn't say when it happened, but there's a group of people who run a YouTube channel that plays video games. They're known for going to conventions and hosting game shows at them, and from what I can tell, it's part trivia contest, part play video games against them, and if you win, you get prizes. In order to participate, you need to go to those conventions and watch their panel. When they start the game show, they create a line of people to be participants. He didn't realize that. From how he told the story, he had the idea they picked contestants on their YouTube channel. He ended up harassing them and sending them death threats because he wasn't being picked, even though that isn't how it works. I think he mentioned to them he knows what cons they're going to, so he knows where to get them. They ended up calling the cops on him and they came to a deal that he would never contact them again, and he's banned from the conventions they go to. If he doesn't comply, they're going to get him arrested. It gets worse because there's a local place near me that lets you play video games there with friends. A little over a year ago, he found out about it and told me we should hang out there. We did, and when I got there, that's when he told me that story, and the reason we're there is because he's starting his own YouTube channel and is copying their game show, and he's going to do it at conventions and act like his show is the original and try to force out those guys. He wanted to meet me at that video game place because he wanted to ask them to see if he could do a test run of the show. He had me go there with him because he was going to act like the game show was my idea and use me as a scapegoat if those YouTubers found out. I just went along with it, but after he left I ended up telling that store what happened and please don't go through with it, and I didn't have consent to be part of it. I haven't heard anything since, and I keep checking to see if he doesn't forge my name on things. I haven't hung out with him since. I tried looking up that YouTuber group, and the only place I could send them a message is Twitter, but the message I sent is still unsent over a year later, and I'm still looking for a way to contact them on what he's doing. They don't have an email that I can see to contact them or anything like that. 8th grade geography. Mr. Hall, how come the people who live in Antarctica don't fall off the bottom of the earth? After a long pause, the teacher just moved on without addressing the question. We all knew the kid was dead serious. He wasn't known for clowning around or even being creative enough to amuse himself. He was serious. A mother told me it was better for her child to die pure than to live uncontaminated by vaccines. She said this as her very young child was in hospital dying from a vaccine-preventable illness. I'm a Brit, but have family who live in Florida. One time when we were visiting them, my cousin's BF, about 18 at the time, asked us what we would do if we had a fire. Us Brits, looking perplexed, asked what he meant. So he said, deadly serious, if you guys have a serious fire, do you call up the US to come over and put it out? We just laughed in response. But he really thought about European emergencies, so we called up the USA and they sent people over to sort it out. Customer approaches me while I'm carrying a box with the store's logo on it, wearing clothing that has the store's well-known color scheme on it, covered by a vest that has the store logo plastered really big on the front and back. While I am standing next to a stocking cart that is clearly designed for employees specifically to use and also has the store's color scheme. Hey, do you work here? No buddy, I just love this fucking retail chain so much that I cosplay as a worker and come help out. Yes, I fucking work here. My husband's aunt asked us what we put in our homemade salsa to get it to be red. She said she made some but she didn't put ketchup in it and thinks that was her problem with hers. When I was like 15 to 16, I was avoiding gluten to help with migraines. I also had just started a new job at Subway. I was telling a family that I babysat for that it was kind of a bummer working there, because I could smell all the delicious bread smells but couldn't eat any of it. She looked me dead in the eye and said, well, just eat white bread. White bread is made out of flour, which doesn't have any gluten. I tried to explain to her how incredibly, stupidly wrong she was, and instead her and her husband ganged up on me telling me I didn't know what I was talking about. I think about this often. I didn't babysit for them again. What kind of nuts are in peanut butter cookies? I stared at them for perhaps 15 seconds before repeating the question back to them, staring into the nothingness behind their eyes the entire time. I repeated the question again and again, each time emphasizing the next word. What kind of nuts are in peanut butter cookies? What kind of nuts are in peanut butter cookies? What kind of nuts are in peanut butter cookies? And so on, until I finally looked them in the eyes and said, I don't know how to help you anymore. My mother, 43F, started complaining to me, 24M, after I gave her directions using north, east, south, and west. Those directions don't make sense. You told me to go west, so I took a left turn, but then you started complaining to me that I turned? She was already on an interstate going west, but she doesn't believe in magnetic north and thinks that compasses are a scam. She thinks that whatever way you look is north, south is behind you, west is to the left, and east is to the right. Companies shouldn't be allowed to make a profit. After a lot of back and forth, I figured out what he actually had a problem with was the investors that would come round once a year. He assumed they were making millions in handouts. Money that should go to him. I asked him why anyone would invest in a company if they weren't going to get anything back. He said they should only get their money back, or the company should get it from somewhere else. He wouldn't have it, even though he used to work as a contractor. Which was different. I know non-for-profit companies exist, but this was one guy who built up the company himself. A company that realistically would not exist if there wasn't the appeal of making some profit. A coworker walked up with a cart of expired product. Asked where he was going with it and he got all snarky and shoved one in my face and said it was a week expired. It was the right week but wrong year. Said, that says 2023, was in 2022, his response being, yeah, duh. Fiance's best friend, the first time I had met her. I was trying to get to know her. She was from El Paso and I hadn't been able to have many convos with people from El Paso, so I was interested. We were driving over a lake and she was in awe because they simply don't have many lakes in El Paso. My brain immediately went to the water supply. I asked her where El Paso gets their water from. This girl looked me dead in the eyes and confidently said, "The fridge." I couldn't believe what I had just heard and was legitimately left speechless. I tried not to laugh and just left her with a convincing "I see," before swiftly changing the subject. I was trying to sell some paintings I'd made of various mythical creatures, and my mom got all upset and serious, and told me, "You can't sell pictures of griffins. You'll get sued." I asked her how and why, and she told me they were invented by Merv Griffin. His family could sue you for it. I had to go on Google and show her photos of ancient historical monuments and ancient art depicting griffins or griffin-like creatures in order to convince her that no, some old celebrity did not invent a mythical beast. My last year at university, we helped new kids move into their dorm. I was helping a family whose daughter screamed and pointed, "My roommate doesn't know English." We all paused and saw her pointing to a rice cooker and her mouth wide open. So back when McCain was running for president, I was talking to an undergrad about the election. She legit told me that she had grown up as a Republican, but was voting for Obama, because she could never vote for someone who had been a prisoner. She did not know the difference between a prisoner and a prisoner of war. Mind you, this was a senior in a class for advanced students in the major. I had to take a long moment to gather myself after that. So in my line of work, we travel a lot. It's a requirement. Had a coworker, more like an asshat, call me when we were planning a work trip to New York. He straight up asked, "How can I charge my professional pet sitter fee to our travel card?" The dude had a cat that was going to be alone for 3 days and had to hire a pet sitter. He wanted the company to cover the costs. I was like, "Are you serious?" And he totally was. He then explains that he should not be responsible for the expense because the company was making him travel. I asked him if he read his position description, especially the part where travel was required 75% of the time. Probably early 2000s, and I was dating this girl for a few months. I knew she was a little bit ditzy, classic blonde, and she was super hot, so I didn't really mind. So we are sitting there watching the movie District 9 about a bunch of aliens who come down in South Africa. She turns and looks me straight in the face, serious as can be, and says, "Is this movie based on a true story? Because I really feel like it could be." So I was like, "Well, don't you think if aliens crashed a spaceship and were being hunted down in South Africa, we probably would have heard about that?" And her reply was a huff and, "Well, I don't know what's happening in South Africa, and we just finished watching the movie and not another word was ever said about it." I still to this day believe she wasn't trolling me. My brother's now ex-wife once refused to get my husband and I snowshoe poles for Christmas because there isn't even any snow on the ground. Every time we see or talk about our snowshoes, we mention how we need to check on them and see if they melted over the summer. Those jokes are the best thing she ever gave this family. It honestly sums up her stupidity. I am Australian in the US, was having a conversation with an American. It was December in the US and not quite snowing, but he asked me if it was snowing in Australia now. I explained that the southern hemisphere has opposite seasons and that December in Australia is actually summertime. He was very skeptical, but after some thought had a follow-up question. That being, "So when is Christmas?" I declined the rabbit hole. My MIL is pretty dumb. She said multiple things, but only a few stand out to my mind. She asked where the division was on a calculator once. She really didn't know. She called a bird a flying thing with wings. And if you're doing something, she'll ask if you're doing that very thing. If I'm standing in the kitchen doing dishes, she'll ask, "Are you doing dishes?" If I'm vacuuming, "Are you vacuuming?" It's incredibly irritating. Happened today and not the dumbest, but I am 16 and in the UK we are doing our GCSEs. Today we had maths. In the tests given to people who aren't the best at maths, they were asked to draw a hexagon. None of them knew what that was and they are going to college in 3 months. I got one. I was at work and one coworker was on the other side of the wall going through the food carts for silverware. I knew she was there, and was just loudly enough saying something like, "Yeah, Amy is such a dummy," and a poopy face. Like 30 seconds later she comes in and with a chuckle says she heard what I said. I told her she didn't because she was on the other side of the wall, despite the door being right to her. She said, "I have the ears of a hawk," and immediately I responded, "Amy, birds don't have ears. They don't have conventional ears, like humans or cats or dogs. You couldn't put an earring on a board, so they don't have ears." Another coworker turns her head to me and just what the fuck did you just say? Birds don't have ears? There's just a whole species of animals that can't hear? It's been like 4 years, haven't lived it down. It's been about 15 years ago where I worked at a software company. By this time file storage was done via SharePoint or thumb drive. This guy asked me if I had a floppy disk. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. It had been about 5 years since I had seen any floating around the office. The guy glowered at me and then started to yell at me. I told him, "Oh, you're serious? I will see if I can order them, but it's not something that's kept in stock." He said he needed it right now. I said unfortunately I don't even know who would have any. Ended up talking to his manager about his reaction. His manager apologized and explained it to me. He was a temp. Not sure what happened to him, but he wasn't there much longer. I just read a thread about someone buying a gaming chair and said they're very comfortable for them, so that's pretty much the dumbest thing I've seen today at the very least. Conversation about religion with coworkers. First mistake, likely. One guy was not dumb, but he also wasn't smart. His dad was a preacher. He argued that by saying something doesn't exist, you are actually acknowledging that it does. You're taking a side against something, and you can't take a side against something that doesn't exist, so that something must be real. Everyone who heard it, including the very religious people, was confused, but, unfortunately, perhaps not surprised. One guy muttered, "So with that logic, do you believe in Santa, then?" And we changed the subject. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel by clicking here, and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I post a new video. Check out these videos for more content you might enjoy. See you in the next video.
I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me